there is a creature alive today who has survived millions of years of evolution without change, without passion, and without logic. It lives to kill. A mindless eating machine. It will attack and devour anything. It is as if God created the devil.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Gargoyle Media Around the Campfire. For our first review, we're going to be talking about the 1975 blockbuster classic, the film that started blockbusters, Jaws. So, let's introduce everyone that's here today. I'm Steve, and someone else.
I'm Vanessa.
Oh, hi. I'm Joaquin.
CW, aka the handsome Clarence.
Yeah,
Nice. And I'm Matthew.
he's my favorite.
Hi, Matthew.
Hi, Matt.
So yeah, we're talking about Jaws. It's a movie. It's got a big fish in it. Some people die. I can never really remember the plot of what happens in Jaws. So Joaquin, who is sometimes referred to as Jack by his friends, would you like to tell us the plot of Jaws and every single thing that happens in Jaws?
Sure, if I could remember.
Do your best.
Let me think. I believe it's about a town that has a mayor and a cop, and a fish comes out and it bites people, and there's blood all over the place. So then I believe the cop wants to stop everybody from going into the water because there's a fish that bites people. Then the mayor was like, "No, you guys must need to go into the water because we are a town of the beach." And so it's pretty much about a cop who's trying to stop a big fish from eating people.
Do you remember the cop's name?
No,
Do you remember the fish's name?
Bruno, I believe.
That was close.
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
Bruno the fish.
The robot was Bruce, but the fish in the movie doesn't have a name, but people call it Jaws for some reason.
So it's
I did not
Bruno.
know
Yeah.
Bruno's my
Next
dog,
time,
yeah.
can you do that with action figures?
yeah, yeah.
Sure, yeah. I'll have some action figures.
Yeah, that's nice. So I was watching Jaws, and I might have the unpopular opinion, and that's fine. But I find it gets a little boring in some areas. But when it's exciting, it's very exciting. And I was wondering what you guys think as I was watching. I know it's classified as like a thriller, or sometimes even people consider it a horror movie. But I don't think it really comfortably fits in those. It's kind of its own thing. What genre would you guys say this film is?
An enjoyable movie.
That's a good genre.
Could be a genre.
Suspense? Is that a genre of its own? Suspenseful? Suspense?
I could see it as a suspense, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I agree with you, because I agree with you, Steve, because it gets pretty boring towards the second act. And I feel like that's when it should be the most suspenseful, but it's actually the beginning. And then when they actually start fighting the shark, I feel like that's where I got bored. So I don't know. I thought that was weird.
There's a lot, it's almost like it's almost two acts. I know it's not two acts, but like the whole first half on land and then the whole second half on the water. And when they get to the water, it feels like it's heading towards a finale, but then it just kind of goes on and on before they get to the finale and stuff. And there's some really great stuff in there, but I don't know. I just feel like if the movie could have benefited from being just a little bit shorter, maybe that's just how people, including me, see things now with short attention spans and they want it to move faster. So
I agree with that. However, I do think it does stem from your first question of what we define its genre. Because for more I guess when it came out, it didn't really have a genre, but everyone pushed it towards the blockbuster because I want to say it was one of the first summer blockbusters. And usually those type of movies are action packed, kind of quick paced and and entertaining. So because people now put it in the thriller horror, you expect it to have that same type of pace of horror. Horror never really there's never really a slow part or really a part that's a lot of talking, which this movie has. So you're kind of expecting these certain things, and because of that, people are well, I don't know what it is because there's a lot of parts where they just talk. And even like outside of blockbuster and horror, it's like it's almost just like it's a movie of its own. Like it could be a drama because like even the dialogue they talk about like personal their own personal stories when they're in the boat with Quinn and Hooper. And then there's like moments of horror, and then there's moments of like humor and comedy. So so I guess in that sense it I could see people who say like it's really slow at times, especially the middle part, and then I can also see people say like, well, but it's a great movie, and like it's a great blockbuster movie, and I can also see people who say like it's not a horror movie, it's something else.
Yeah,
So it's
it
either
doesn't fit
go
into a
ahead.
nice genre. It's almost like someone gave a student filmmaker a lot of money to make a movie,
Mhm.
and they just went out and shot it. It doesn't fit anywhere cleanly at all. Like it's very suspenseful. It has
Mhm.
that thriller aspect, and I feel like it has some horror moments,
Mhm.
Mhm.
especially when it comes to like hiding,
Yeah.
the actual great white shark. But it just slows down. Like when you're interested in the actual fighting the shark part, and then when it gets to it, it slows it down, and it becomes a musical for 15 minutes.
Mhm.
That's where I died. I love musicals, but when they started singing, I was out. I just want to go to sleep.
Oh, I don't know. I kind of like those parts. I don't know. It kind of helped build up to those other moments because like like in behind the scenes, I know like the shark gave them a lot of problems to the
Yeah.
point where they had to really cut out a lot because it just like was malfunctioning, or you just saw like the people like running it and stuff. So a lot of parts of the shots of the shark, they had to like cut it, or they had to like quickly edit it so that you couldn't see like its imperfections. But because of that, it kind of gave me like when I watch it, it it lets me mess with my imagination of like, wait, like how big is the shark? Like I couldn't get a full look at it. I only saw like a part of it, and so I guess it messed with me of like this is how I envision it, like the shark. I kind of putting the pieces that they don't show into place.
Well, Clarence had something interesting to say when he said it's almost like a student filmmaker just went out and kind of made a film because it doesn't feel like a blockbuster. And this is considered one of the first or the first like modern blockbusters that created the summer movie season. So in that sense, like they weren't setting out to make a blockbuster. It created that type of category of film. Do you think it holds up in terms of the term blockbuster? Does it hold up as a blockbuster? Can you hold this up to like Jurassic Park or Star Wars even, which was shortly afterwards, and
I
say that they
think
kind of have the same spectacle? Or is this just like, is it unfair to categorize this as a blockbuster and expect that kind of pacing and spectacle from it?
I think it holds up well, and in many ways. For one, the scope of it, the way it's shot, the visuals are great. The score, if you really listen, you can hear where like when he was doing Jurassic Park, where he was like, let's go back to Jaws, let's just rip that entire section and put it in Jurassic Park,
Mhm.
which is great. But like the scope of it sounds bigger than it actually is, which is amazing. And I think it holds up because of mainly because of the score. I'm not saying it's the greatest. I'm not saying there's some parts that don't fit, but it just feels just grand. It feels larger than life. So I say yes, it does hold up.
I feel like it was the Jurassic Park of its time. Like the music at the beginning is kind of like the the big dinosaur in Jurassic Park when like you hear it coming for you in the vibration and everything. I feel like I get that same vibe from this movie.
Those horns.
Yeah.
But so anyways, Vanessa, you were talking earlier about you identified some ways in which this movie is a great parallel for some modern events going on. Would you like to elaborate on that? Because I think it was pretty good, insightful stuff.
I was really surprised because like yesterday was the first time I've ever watched the movie. So I have like a modern take on it. I didn't watch it when I was a kid. So adult Vanessa was watching it. And like the fact that we live in California and it's a beach town, and they were he wanted to close the beach, but he got so much like fight on that. Like I just was so like, oh my gosh, I'm living through this right now. And I guess I always have a problem because I rarely understand the other side, and I'm looking forward to like understanding that side sometimes that I'm against. And so to see it in another form of like, this is a shark, it only killed like 2 people, you know, but we're here like fighting a virus that's killing a lot of people, and there's so much fight back on like what the best safety procedures are. And when it's as simple as like get out of the water, he still had like a lot of fight on that. And I just was so like, wow, like how could that be still happening to this day? It's crazy. Yeah,
I agree with what she just said right now. I was thinking the same thing earlier.
Mhm.
it hits on lots of levels. And then like the mother who slaps the cop because her son died, and he's like, you knew the whole entire time. That hit hard. I feel like that like was very similar to what's going on in school. Like, do we send our kids back to school knowing that there's a pandemic going on, and you know what happens then? So I mean, I didn't want to really get off political, but or like even talk about the pandemic at all, because it's supposed to be light and fun, but it just hit so close to home. So I mean, I was like, wow.
Jaws is the great debate.
It's probably like the movie that will parallel modern events so much so we can't not talk about it, you know, because it is there. I rewatched it last night for the first time in like a decade, and it's there. Like every metaphor, every thing is there in terms of what's going on right now. So it couldn't be ignored. We had to talk about it. So this would be our one serious part, and then we'll
No, kind of like Vanessa said, it's hard not to see it, especially that in the meeting right after like the first incident, and they're kind of like the town's talking about it, and then they're like, oh, we're going to take precautions, we're going to do this, this, and this, and like the town's like, we don't care, like, is the beach going to be closed? Yeah, but we're going to do all these things to prevent, like, you know, whatever this threat is. Like, well, is the beach going to be closed? And like, yes. And then they all go in an uproar of like, how dare you do this, and da 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 da. It basically, and it's just crazy, kind of like what I said, how it parallels what's happening right now, where it's like, it's so simple, like, this happened, we got to do something about it.
Right.
And you know, and then you get like the mayor, who I think is like the true villain in the movie. The shark isn't. The shark was just hungry.
Shark's a sweetheart.
The mayor is like the real
our current president right now.
The real villain.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy. Yeah, like you said, like spot on. Like,
I thought it was funny because the cop was like, we're going to close it for 24 hours. And one of the side characters is like, 24 hours is like 3 weeks here. It's like, oh my gosh. Wow.
And there's people like that even now.
There is. That's crazy.
Well, anyway, so besides all that good thematic value, I still want to go back to like see what you guys maybe want to elaborate on. What I think is the thing that holds the movie back the most for modern audiences, me included, is just that it's so damn long. Like, I feel like it just drags. Does anybody else feel like something could be cut from it, or that it just is? Does anybody think it's not too long and that I'm just a jerk? No,
I actually think it's not that long.
That's good.
Although I do understand especially that middle part, because there's moments where it feels like, oh, it's leading to the end, and then it just cuts to this wide shot of the boat, and then it goes into like the cabin, and they're talking, and you're like, wait, so now what's going on? Which I think he just added those in there for like effect, to just get people excited again. And then like, but I have to include this part where they talk, because I do think some of the parts where they do, there's the dialogue they do have on the boat, the second half mainly, they're kind of vital moments of like the characters, because then you begin to know like who these characters are, and then you begin to care for these characters. Whereas like, especially like Jaws and the ones after, the main thing was like, I want to see someone get eaten, and they're like, all right, here it is, boom. Like, did you care about that person? No, it was cool to see him die. Or,
I love that stuff too, and that's why it's kind of tricky. Like the scene where Quint's talking to Hooper, and like, you know, the two didn't get along at all. Then they start comparing scars.
Yeah.
Hooper's like, I got this here, and they're putting their legs up, and then they drink and sing to their legs. It's nice to have them bond before they go in the final fight and stuff. That's all valuable. It's just like, I don't know how I would pace the movie or anything. I just know that, you know, I get a little bored here and there. I'm just being honest.
Yeah. Anything that scene right before that, I believe there's like another, like, not fake out, but just like Jaws attacks a little bit. But prior to that, it's just them on the boat, kind of just talking about knots and like small little things here and there. I think it was supposed to encapsulate just like they're by themselves in the middle of the ocean, give you that ocean feel and stuff. I think that maybe that part, that little moment there, they could probably like remove, and it still flow into just like their characters still, and like especially when it gets to the that scene where they're drinking and kind of showing their scars. I think it'll still feel like it flows like with their characters and them like kind of like coming together with the scars and like him talking about the Indianapolis and all that.
What do you think, Jack? Is there anything you don't like about the movie?
Like I said, it's been a while since I saw it, and I tried to review it again, but only got to the half.
So you watched half of the movie before
Yeah.
we watched our very first movie?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it, so I tried to rewatch it, but then I only made it to the half, and that was it.
What'd you do after you turned off the movie? Something important, I trust?
Yeah, sleep.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
That
But
makes
in the half
Yeah.
of the movie,
You think I slept?
I hope so.
you guys
so
get
in that
asleep?
half of a movie, was there anything you didn't like?
Well, as far as I remember, like I know
After the
that
opening
people.
credits, guys.
What? No, like afterwards, I believe that this movie created like an attack to like real sharks because people got really afraid of the shark. And when I seen the shark and I seen the animatronics of it, it's like it doesn't look like a real shark. It's freaking slow. It just doesn't look real to me. And so I'm thinking like, why did it cost people to go hunt sharks? You know, at that time, it's like it just make no sense to me. It's like it's a fucking fake shark. You can see it.
So you don't think the effects hold up?
No, I don't, because like
Interesting.
I guess because I see kind of like Shark Week a lot, so I know sharks move a lot quicker than what this shark does.
That's
So
true.
it kind of, I guess it took the effect out of it, because I keep on watching Shark Week, and sharks
Yeah,
tend to move a little faster than a robotic shark.
which is scarier.
But that might be, he might have just learned his lesson. Like, I think Jaws was his playground. It was, it was him figuring things out. And then you go to Jurassic Park, and that first trilogy still holds up, just visually
Yeah.
speaking.
Yeah.
And and that was animatronics as well. And like that
Yeah,
holds,
yeah.
it looks
It was
better
a
than the
mix.
new
It really
version.
is.
It was a
Yeah.
mixture.
True, it was a mixture, but it holds up very well.
It does. Then again, we
And
can't
Jurassic
compare.
Park 3 also?
Yeah, he's saying in terms of the animatronics and the
Yeah.
graphics.
Not the
Okay.
story.
I'll
But that's another time.
I mean, I do gotta take into consideration that the animatronics was done underwater, so
Yeah.
that might slow things down a little bit too.
I mean, no matter what, like a movie eventually is going to be outdated. It's just crazy. I guess for me, is I'm a sucker for like animatronics and like practical effects.
Yeah.
So I rather see that than like sometimes CGI. Other than like always going back to Jurassic Park, but like for example, like Deep Blue Sea. If you watch that, you're gonna be like, when it came out, I'm pretty sure people were like, "Whoa!" Like how far we came with like advancement of like graphics and sharks. You watch it now, you're like, "This is all fake." Whereas like
Yeah.
I watch Jaws now, and it still gets me. It still like gets me like careful, don't get out of the water. Like, and then even if you see like the animatronic like get them, it still gets me of like that's a real shark getting them, or that's a
Yeah.
real thing attacking them.
What makes me, like I said, I tried to rewatch it, and that feeling of being a little scared was the actual music. So like what Clarence said, it was that soundtrack that gave it life.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just hearing the music kind of like freaked me out a little bit. It's like, just hearing it, you're like, like something's bad's gonna happen. And then every time like the shark was supposed to attack, they keep on bringing out the music, so like it kept like, I guess it kept you like on your seat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you talk about music, I assume we're talking about the very famous
Yeah.
Jaws theme.
No, Jurassic Park.
Because some of the music was actually what threw me in terms of what the genre and tone was supposed to be. Because of course we all remember the Jaws theme, but if you remember, there's scenes where they're at sea and they're gonna go fight the shark, and they're doing like all this tense stuff, and there's like a really jaunty adventure.
Little flutes and stuff.
Anybody rewatch it recently where it's like and it's like this like jaunty little theme, like, oh, we're in this fun around an adventure. So, do you think the whole score like hits its mark, or are we just talking about the Jaws theme?
I was just talking about the Jaws theme. You know that I guess they use that to give it like fear. You know, to give you fear towards a shark. And I can understand that happy tune because they were going into an adventure to go hunt the shark. So
Yeah, I get the adventure. I get the you know, the scope of it. Like, okay, this is grand adventure. It's either it's gonna get us or we're gonna get it, and that's great. But I almost like if they would have gone the opposite way and completely cut the music and let like the atmosphere do its job, like the waves and the birds and like the water, like letting all that happen would have been a lot scarier. Because what still holds up to me and why we tiptoe a little bit into the horror genre was when what's his name was in the water in the shark tank, the shark cage, I should say.
Yes.
And when Jaws is coming straight in, like that got me, and I paused like seconds. Okay, well, I forgot that was coming. That was very tense. And that would have played a lot better to me, almost completely silent.
I love that idea. Some like if it was just like nature sounds and just the silence of the ocean isolation. Some of the best parts of the sound mixing and everything was for me was when the camera is like eye level with the water and it would dip down and things go silent, come back up and dip down, things go silent. I thought that was interesting and unnerving in its own way. And you know, speaking of, we talked about the effects. I'm going to pose a question to Vanessa. So there were problems with the mechanical shark, and it's very well known stories that it wouldn't function the way they want. And that's partially why it led to, you know, some devices of you not seeing the shark and something's tied to it instead, because they couldn't get it to fit in all the scenes they wanted to. And it also, the way the movie came out, because of that, it created this line of thinking that's still used in horror films, still used very effectively. It's a good line of thinking, that it's scarier to not see the monster. So is that true? What do you think, Vanessa? Is it scarier to not see the monster? Did you want to see more shark? Like,
you know, you always want to see more of the monster, but in this case, when I was watching it yesterday, I was definitely more scared at the beginning when I didn't see it, and then when I did see it, I was like, oh, okay. You know, so I mean, I guess that's it. I was so, and maybe it's the music that you were talking about, but and it's the same part when you see the shark is where it starts to drag for me, and so I don't know why that is, but
you think it's because maybe there was such a buildup that actually, in a good way, your imagination created something more horrific or something bigger? Or do you think that the disappointment lied in just like the effects weren't up to par for what you were expecting?
I think maybe my imagination. I didn't really have a problem with the effects. I mean, it was 1975, and so like I know what I'm getting into. But I think the buildup was so big that it was just like, oh, okay, nice shark, cool, yeah.
And I guess that's a good thing, you know, if it really did out then. Because it's interesting, because I assume, and Matt, you probably know a lot about this movie. You seem to be very passionate about it. Am I right? Like, is it not shown a lot because of the animatronics, or was it always the intention not to show it a lot?
I think it became like a happy accident for them.
Yeah.
Because I believe there were a lot more shots that they want to include in it with the shark, but it was just giving them such like horrible time of like, you know, glitching out or like, you know, malfunctioning or tearing apart that they would it probably a mix of like, yeah, just get the shot quick, and also editing where they're like, all right, edit cut right here, because once it passes this, you can see like the shark's tail's ripped off or something. So I think it was a happy accident for them. And I mean, in the same way that this became like the first like modern blockbuster, or the first like summer blockbuster movie in that same sense, I think this also spurred up the whole don't show too much and kind of leave it to the imagination of the viewer, not just in horror but just kind of other things too.
That's weird that it created that kind of like guideline that everybody still follows to this day, and it's a good guideline. But like this did it by accident. They wanted to show a lot of shark. It's just they couldn't get it working. So.
I think that was done by the editor. Like I think I heard a couple of behind the scenes, and it was the editor that made that decision. It was the editor who suggested like, let's not show the shark. It kind of like it's a lot more scary when you don't know. And then eventually they show it. And again, it was the editor's suggestion who created that.
Looking up the editor's name is Verna Fields. So good job, Berna Fields. He
Nice.
doesn't get enough credit for creating that
Yeah.
whole, you know,
Yeah.
whole rule, that whole guideline. It
We're
wasn't
gonna be
Spielberg,
someone
it was
someday.
Berna.
Can we go back to music real quick?
No. Yeah, go.
Please, I wanted to say something. You were saying it sounds a lot like Jurassic Park, but in my mind, especially the parts you were talking about, Steve, where they're on the boat and it has like the flutes and stuff, it sounds a lot like the Hook soundtrack. Remember Hook, Peter Pan Hook? Sounds just like that. I didn't even recognize the Jurassic Park theme at all. And then when you were talking about the sound, like how you wanted more sound instead of music, at the beginning of the film, I kind of felt like I had too much sound. Like I felt like I was hearing sound effects everywhere and over people's voices. Like I remember like a drum that was really loud. Just like it was hard to keep a hold of who was talking. And I feel like the story is more about the people of Amityville or Amity Island than the shark. And so I really wanted to like kind of dive into more of who they were. So I thought the sound effects were kind of getting in the way at that moment.
I can totally see that. Because the characters are really good and the actors are really good. Which is it both? Like, because the actors are very charismatic. There's some great like dynamics. There's great chemistry between them. Some of the best performances, you know, like Quint, very great monologue he has when he's explaining about his history with the sharks. What do you think is more on point, the writing of the characters or the actors? Like, did they carry the script, or was it the script that actually brought the characters to life?
I think
Very good question.
like, I feel like a good
agree.
actor can't act on a bad script, you know, like, so
Yeah.
no matter how good of an actor you are, if your writing's crap, then it's going to go down really bad.
They're just very likable characters, like all of them, you know. And that's why I think the first half's so great, because it's easy to watch these characters dealing with this situation.
And I also feel like those like movies, especially movies, you know, in the 70s, you had heavier equipment. So you relied more on the actors to be in the scene, be in the moment, deliver this amazing performance instead of the camera moving from shot to shot. You know, like I feel like those, like earlier, like you watched like the original like Ocean's 11 and all those movies, and like even when Ocean's 12 repeated, when it was like directed as if it was almost in the 70s, it relied on the actors to do what the actors do well. And I feel like that's why I prefer the beginning of this movie, the first half, the first 2 hours. But
Feels like
I really enjoy the end as well, but I think I really love the beginning because you get to just see actors do what actors do so well, which is take a script, which was, in my opinion, a very good script, and then transcend, and then, you know, just make it bigger. And not to pause, but I randomly just got a 10-minute warning. We have not been talking for 40 minutes, have we? Or 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
I think, yeah, we've been talking 30 minutes.
Yeah,
because we're all having fun.
We are.
Doing good.
Okay, so, you know, with so little time left, let's talk about one last thing, or two last things. Actually, I got two things that kind of prompt us with is the cinematography. I know a couple of you in this group here are big on cinematography, big on camera work, and I've even gone to film school with some of you, and you know, they teach some of the techniques and some of the shots that are in Jaws. What do you guys think? Is this something that like people should look at for cinematography, or is it overhyped, or what's your opinion? Anyone, but especially Jack.
Matt.
Jack. No,
John
I
Boy?
would say absolutely. If you're a cinematographer, this is one of those movies to really look at. More so on the, like, I guess, non-studio filmmaking, and just like the essence of mixing like dolly shots with tracking shots with shoulder shots. You know, there's a mix of all that in this movie, and I feel like they all like emphasize the intensity of the music and what's going on in the script. Especially like, I mean, this is where we got like the jaw shot with Brody when he first sees the shark attack the kid. We get those shots that you like, Steve, of where it's like in the water, kind of going, dipping in and out. And then we even got shots of like them running on the boat, and it's like dolly following them somehow. So in regards to that, yeah, like it's beautifully shot with some really nice shots that they have of like part of the shark or them talking and all that, and some really nice wide shots of the ocean itself, which either makes the movie really beautiful or makes it very eerie.
True. I felt like they really planned it out really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like it felt like they storyboarded or something. Because I know today we have lighter. Yeah, as I know, like today we have like lighter cameras, so there's I guess less planning. There's more like, oh, we have a lighter camera. Let's do this. Let's do that. Like a lot of movements. But back then, again, like Clarence had said, heavier equipment, and it shows that they were maybe using heavier equipment, but they actually planned it out and made it work for them.
Mm-hmm.
So sounds like Jaws has a lot of value to it. So I got a controversial question: should Jaws be remade?
No.
Maybe just to see what will be the new modern take on it. But it has to be someone who's not like heavy on CG, because that's the first thing they're going to want to do, like use a lot of CG. So maybe someone who really cares about the film and who could try like a different take to it, like a different way of shooting it, just a different take on it.
Be okay with it being remade just because you want to see how the story could be interpreted with modern technology. Vanessa, you were pretty quick to say no. Why do you think this should never be remade?
I feel like we have already in other forms of movies, like, Deep Blue Sea, The Meg. I feel like there's been a lot of like shark movies. And we're not doing very good. Sharknado. We're not doing good with remakes right now, in my opinion. I feel like they keep dropping the ball. And if you're going to remake a classic, we really need to do it some justice. So I'm going to say no for now.
Well, they're all like different movies. I don't feel like they're remakes.
Kind of like
Sharknado. Like Sharknado is not definitely a remake of
Sharknado.
It's a movie about a shark. How much can you recreate?
And a tornado.
You had to add a tornado to it.
Tornado. Multiple sharks in a tornado.
Well, no, I know.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, no, sorry. I was gonna say I know what Vanessa means. Like, if you were to say to somebody, "Hey, I'm making a shark attack movie," they're gonna be like, "Well, just watch Jaws. Like, there's Jaws already." So it's not so much more like, no matter what, people are gonna know. Like, well, why? Just watch. Like Jaws is just like still the great movie. So it's for them to say, "I'm gonna make a Jaws remake." They're gonna most of the consensus like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, do you think
shorter?
So no remake is the majority opinion. Do you think the franchise should continue? Should they make like a Jaws 6 or whatever the hell it was on now? I know there was that Jaws 3 where the shark. Anybody ever see Jaws 3? I think that was that one where it jumps out of the ocean and it screams. It goes. Rah!
Smile, you son of a...
I think that was Jaws: The Revenge.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good movie. We should have watched that.
Yeah.
But anyways, do you think they should make another? Should they expand the Jaws franchise, like Jurassic World? Should there be a Jaws World?
I guess this kind of sort of ties in my answer of whether it should be remade, and the answer is no. I don't think it should be, because it would just go too flashy. But if they were to remake it, or if they were to continue it, I want it to be like a shoestring budget, like something like what like early Blumhouse would have done, where you give them $10 million to $12 million and you say go for it. Where you deliberately barely see the shark, where it's almost a character-driven story. So when someone does die, you're like, oh, holy crap! Anyone can go at any moment. This is going to be great.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, like one of my things about it was, by the time they made Quinn likable, I didn't care about him. I was like, oh, Quinn's gone. All right, is Brody going next? Like, so if you're gonna do it, I want it to be almost a character study than anything else.
If you guys had to recast the roles for a remake, who would you pick?
I don't know why. I randomly see Adam Driver in like a Brody role.
That'd be good. I picked Shia LaBeouf as Hooper.
And maybe like a
I actually see that. I could see that.
I don't like Shia LaBeouf, but it'd be fun.
I know that he was recently on The Lighthouse, but Willem Dafoe, I could see him as a Quinn too.
Oh, that's a good one. Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, you would need a good character actor to be Quinn.
Yeah.
Like a William Dafoe or like a Joaquin Phoenix or someone along those lines. Someone who's gonna actually go on a boat for 6 months and then come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, does anybody have any closing thoughts on Jaws?
Great.
There you have it. Jaws.
Fish.
I
It's
still
a
think it's a great movie. It's
Yeah.
still, I think it holds up. It's still one of those ones where like people still scared of the beach. You know, some people are still scared of the beach because of sharks. You know, we haven't like advanced in like technology to like
If I can't see, I
where
won't go
sharks
in.
are and stuff. So I think it's still.
I don't go in the water.
Me neither. If I
Not my
can't see
thing.
where I'm going, I'm not going in there.
I had a lot of fun watching it, so I would recommend it.
Even though I got some problems with it, it's definitely a piece of film history. Like, it's
Yeah.
great to rewatch it and be like, wow, this kickstarted summer movies. This is like was such a big deal. You know, it was so merchandised and like theme parks, and it was a huge deal for decades.
Mhm.
That's why I'm worried it's going to be remade, because it's not bringing in that money anymore with the merchandise. So, but yeah, like, no, I really enjoyed revisiting it. I think it's got some pacing problems, but honestly, those pacing problems might be just me, just being like a modern, you know, poor attention span audience member. Like, but yeah, no, I really enjoyed rewatching it. So yeah, that's Jaws, Big Fish.
Jaws.
So,
Oh,
Big
so
Fish, Small World.
yeah,
big
damn,
fish.
that's deep.
All right, guys,
so
I'm done. Deep.
Bye.
we'll be
Bye.
doing more movie reviews, and I hit a random number generator, looking at the little boxes here on the side of the screen with all your face in it, to decide who gets to pick the next movie to review for our next movie review. And the winner is Clarence.
Whoa.
Woo!
Oh,
Yeah.
crap. Think fast.
You don't
I
have
wanna
to pick it now.
Oh, well
Maybe
then,
you can
I'm
think
gonna
about it.
wait.
Suspense.
Tune into the next episode.
Yay.